Well, what a pleasure. I'm joined now by the IACP's Executive Director, Bart Johnson. Bart, welcome.
Thank you very much. It's great to be here with you today.
Now, it's your second year as Executive Director. It's your second conference. What are some of the things you're most looking forward to at the conference this year?
First and foremost, it's great to be here in Philadelphia. We're expecting a great turnout. The responses have been wonderful, a lot of great workshops. And some of the things that are going to be discussed this year is officer safety and wellness. And Stephen, you may remember last year that we announced the new center being stood up, so a lot of progress has been made. And our number one goal is to prevent injury and death to law enforcement through training, awareness, and also equipment. So we're going to be highlighting that quite a bit. Another topic is officer-involved shootings. When an officer becomes involved in a shooting, how do you interview them? What type of rest period should you give them? The issues associated with the media and how to respond and how to make sure that you give them the information that they need to get out to the public. And also cyber. Cyber has really become front and center for the IACP and really the country. You see it spoken about all the time within the federal government, and it's very important for state, local, and tribal law enforcement to understand that, number one, it's an issue to be aware on what it looks like if you're being attacked, and also if you are, who do you report it to. So we're going to have plenaries on each of those topics, and we're looking for the dialogue that's going to come from them, and more importantly, the outcomes that will become out of those sessions.
Okay, so what are some of the things that are bubbling up at this year's conference that perhaps haven't been talked about before?
I think because of the Boston incident on April 15th of this year, the tragedy and the loss of life that occurred out there, I think that's going to be spoken about much more. You may remember over the past several years that terrorism, we've become complacent. Generally speaking, not necessarily law enforcement, but the public and the attention. So that incident put it right center for many people. So we're talking about information sharing, see something, say something, the reporting of suspicious activity to law enforcement, and most importantly, our relationship with the Department of Homeland Security, the FBI, and also the intelligence community to make sure that that information from overseas gets to us legally, and also things that we're observing, is shared with them to make sure they have that two-way dialogue occurring.
But let's look at social media for a second, the challenges and opportunities from social media, because we both know social media is a great way for police chiefs to be part of the community and for the community to feed information to them. But there are also challenges for police forces, aren't there? Because people can now get their camera out, can get their tablet out and film officers at work in a way that was never thought of before.
Social media is a very valuable tool used by law enforcement, and fortunately it's being used appropriately by law enforcement. They're following the law, the regulation, the policies. In fact, the IACP has developed a number of model policies on how to retain the information, how to store the information, and how to purge the information at the right time. So yeah, in the public side there is some concern, but having said that, they should not be concerned because it's being managed appropriately by law enforcement. And the positive side of it, the very positive side of it, just look what happened in Boston and how all those cameras were brought together, and very quickly the two perpetrators were identified. That information was sent out to law enforcement. They were apprehended. One lost his life. The other young man was later apprehended. And that's because of the tool of social media. So it's a great tool, but law enforcement needs to be very mindful of the privacy that goes along with it, which I truly believe they are.
So Bart, away from the conference, what's your agenda for next year as Executive Director of the IACP?
I think the IACP over the past year has made tremendous strides as it relates to membership, outreach, and really the identifications of programs that are relevant to law enforcement. I mentioned one earlier, which is cyber, and the other one is countering violent extremism. Like, once again, what happened in Boston. So we're going to focus on that, those two programs, and we're also going to do a lot more outreach, because there's a lot of other police chiefs and colonels and sheriffs that may not really fully understand the resources and how IACP advocates for them and try to identify issues that are over the horizon that are coming at them. So we're trying to recognize those and address solutions to help them do their job better.
Well, Bart, thank you very much indeed for joining us today on IACP TV, and have a great conference.
Thank you, Stephen.